Co-parenting affects so many of us. Anybody who's gone through a divorce, and there's a lot of us out there, anybody who is dating or married to somebody else who has children, that's a different way that you're involved in a co-parenting situation. And with the current trends as they are, which really wants both parents parenting often, like involved on the day-to-day, like every other weekend is no longer the standard. So that means you've got a lot of interactions with your ex where you're
Hey everybody, it is Katie again. I am your founder of MOMnation, and I am here. I'm here with a very special guest today. I mean, I love all of our guests on our Live and Learns. They're all awesome. They're mamas that have a skill to teach us or some knowledge to share. But Billie and I go way, way back. We were just talking about it before we popped on the show. What do you think, Billie? 10 years, 12 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It has. It was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you had just become an Arizona citizen when we met.
Listen, I love that. Yeah, I moved to Arizona in 2010, and took me a couple of years to get licensed here as an attorney, so about 2012. So in between that time is when I was really out there kind of meeting people. So it must have been between 2010 and 2012.
Yep, definitely was. So anyway, it's very nice to see you again, old friend.
So good to see you too.
Glad
it's been great to
you.
watch you on MOMnation.
Oh, thank you so much. It's definitely a passion. I love these mamas. I love sharing with them. I meet so many cool people like yourself, and I met you 12 years ago, we just established. And so all of these cool people that I meet along the way, I feel like it's just so important to share with our audience because, hey, if I can help somebody through something or, if this show gets somebody through their bad day, hey man, that's a win in my book. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm stoked to talk to you. We have many things that I'm thinking many things I'd love to talk to you about now that we've reconnected. But today our topic is co-parenting tips, how to kind of navigate the legal waters. For those of you who don't know, this is Billie. She's with Modern Law. She owns the place. So she's a pretty big deal. But tell me a little bit, Billie, about your background. Why are you passionate about what you do? Kind of what got you here from there?
Sure. So, I mean, I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but my parents divorced when I was in college. And so, what I would do as a future really was on my radar. And I saw the impact that divorce attorneys had on my family at that time and was like, this is real. This isn't pushing paper around. This isn't trying to, make as much money as I can for a corporation. This is a real impact on people's lives. I want to do that. And I've been doing it, ever since.
Yeah, you have. In fact, we were just talking about this before we hopped on too. Tell us about this podcast that you have. How long have you been doing it? What's on it? I am dying to go and download that episode that you just posted because it's really looks like a pretty interesting topic.
Yes. So we just launched season 3 today. And we didn't know this going into this timing. So I feel like a celebrity on a tour launch, but that's not what happened at all. So I've had a podcast for, I think, almost a year. It's pretty young, but it's so fun. It's just such a fun way to make content. It's very much like this. But today we launched season 3, and season 3 is different than anything we've done before. And we've started off with a 5-part series with a case that I worked on several years ago, where I represented a dad and his baby ended up going missing and being kidnapped by the mom. And you'll have to watch the series to see what happens, but social media played a huge role. The community played a huge role. FBI was involved. It was an insane story. So you'll have to check it out.
Oh yeah, crazy. I get the chills from head to toe. So definitely that's on my to-do list for today. So thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about today's topic. We're talking about co-parenting, kind of navigating the waters, the legal system, that kind of thing. And then some tips and tricks. I'm assuming working with many, families as you have over the years, you've got probably lots of them under your belt.
Yeah. So one of the coolest things about what I get to do is I get to hear people's stories all day, every day. And I get to watch their lives unfold, over a period of months or years. And I get to see the way different parents do things. And there's a lot of ways to do things. And, you just tuck away little bits of little nuggets of knowledge, like, oh, that's a best practice, or, oh, I can't believe that, like, I wish I could have done that well, or something like that. And co-parenting affects so many of us. Anybody who's gone through a divorce, and there's a lot of us out there, anybody who is dating or married to somebody else who has children, that's a different way that you're involved in a co-parenting situation. And with the current trends as they are, which really wants both parents parenting often, like involved on the day-to-day, like, every other weekend is no longer the standard. So that means you've got a lot of interactions with your ex where you're trying to make decisions together and you're trying to work through parenting, which is hard enough in and of itself.
Yep.
Then with a parent who doesn't live with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And I see tons of posts, throughout MOMnation. So we're in 10 different states. So this spans across the country. I mean, we're all dealing with it. I see so many posts of moms, or stepmoms, like you had mentioned, just at their wits' end. Just, I don't know what to do anymore. How do I navigate this? I just want what's best for my child, but I'm dealing with all this other crap. And, oftentimes a lot of the advice will be, well, get an attorney, get an attorney, get an attorney. Sometimes that's not in the cards for people. So,
right. And sometimes it's not necessary. Like, it really isn't. So there's things that rise to the level of court intervention. And then there's most of the day-to-day that the court simply just won't touch. And you have to come up with another way to deal with whatever it is you're dealing with. Now, everybody's got a different circumstance. If you are dealing with safety issues, you need to talk to an attorney. If you're dealing with ongoing disagreements about, medical issues or schooling issues, you probably need to talk to an attorney. But most of the day-to-day, somebody can do whatever they want. Each parent gets to make whatever decisions they want. And then you have to navigate, well, what should my communication boundaries be? How do I restructure the relationship that I had? Because now I have to have a new relationship with my ex.
Right.
I have to have a relationship where we're partners and we're co-parenting, and we have, a certain level of respect for one another. But at the same time, like, we're not parenting partners anymore. You're not in my house with me. You don't get to tell me what to do. You don't get to set bedtime. And that can be a huge transition from being parenting partners in the same house to being co-parents.
So part of what you do probably naturally, and when you're working with parents like this, is help them communicate.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, set boundaries. So much of this is about boundary setting, because as that relationship changes, there's the way you used to communicate and you used to talk, which became somewhat toxic, which is why you broke up. Yeah. But that's your baseline for your communication and for your relationship. And then you have to undo the toxic, and you have to become people who can have a conversation or respect one another or communicate enough through whatever mechanism to get the duties of parenting done, to talk about the exchanges, to talk about whether or not we're registering for X class, to figure out who bought the books and who did this and who did that. Like, there's a lot of overlap that comes from modern co-parenting.
Do you have any advice for parents out there that might be just dealing with this? It just happened. They're reestablishing their relationship as being separated, not in the same household. Perhaps it was toxic. Perhaps emotions ran wild. What do you typically give for advice in that situation?
So this is, most of us know, like, modern day divorce does not look like it did, many years ago, when you may not see the other parent anymore. So modern divorce is just different. Like, families are different, and your ex is sort of like your extended family that you're never going to get rid of, but you have to tolerate. And many of us want that ideal, which is, maybe we could celebrate holidays together, or maybe we could do birthdays together. Or many, many, many people want that, and many, many people get there, but not usually at first. Yeah. And I think you might be making a mistake by trying to take your relationship from toxic people who are breaking up and heartbroken to lovely, peaceful co-parents. Like, you're not going to do that. So if you're in a high conflict situation and it's new, one of the best things you can do is communicate less, talk less. Do not engage, do not bicker. Like, keep your communication to a minimum, and understand what's on the table and what's off the table as far as what you should be talking about. There's only certain things that you all should be talking about. And this, if you have two good parents, which is most of the time the case, most of the time you have two parents who both love their children, who both know how to parent to a certain extent, even if you do it differently, you have to let go of the control and understand that this person now has autonomy to parent the way they want to on their parenting time, as long as your kids are safe.
And that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for some people.
Huge, huge, awful, especially for moms who have designed their life around caring for their children. Like their whole world might be, or a big part of their world, and a big part of their identity might be, understanding this child, nurturing this child, and having a routine that works, and investing so much time and energy, and then being told, you don't get to know.
Yeah.
He can do it how he wants.
Yeah, that's tough.
Hard.
Real tough. Would you suggest communicating only in writing, or, because I'm sure what happened throughout the relationship, especially when the breakup is fresh and new, comes through. People are still angry about that stuff. Maybe there was infidelity. Maybe there was, a whole variety of things. So would you suggest communicating on like more of a in writing kind of level where things don't necessarily get as heated as quickly?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So you want to de-escalate, right? At all levels. And it is most hard to de-escalate in person.
Right.
It is most hard to, check yourself and your tone and your face, and you're safer, because there's an element of safety. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you had a violent relationship, but like safety within communication is something that's talked a lot about in crucial conversations or any type of therapy. Like, how do you create a safe environment for communication? In person probably isn't it.
Yeah, for sure. Switching gears just slightly, you had mentioned before we hopped on, when we talked about the topic today, ways to navigate court without an attorney. So parent A and B find themselves in a situation, maybe an attorney is not necessarily in the cards for them, can't afford it, whatever it is. How can those parents move forward, still get the job done through the legal system without, and I understand that there are some situations where it's just like, look, money or not, you need to get an attorney.
Sure.
But let's just say it's not one of those situations.
The most important thing that you can do is to understand the culture that you're entering into. So the family court sees thousands and thousands of families every single month, and they have a way that they process information and situations and a way that they make decisions. And the most important thing for you is to understand that, understand what the court cares about, understand what they don't care about, understand how decisions are made, understand which issues to put in front of them, understand which issues have to be crafted in what manner so that they hear you, because they will not hear you if you don't talk in the language they understand.
Right.
So that is complicated. That is why lawyers are almost so helpful, but you can get that information by following very local lawyers on TikTok, asking them questions, like pay attention, go on YouTube, watch what the lawyers are saying, because in some jurisdictions, they do not prefer 50-50 parenting time, and you're going to have a different strategy. And in some jurisdictions, 50-50 is going to happen unless, there's blood on the floor. I heard that from a California attorney who said that that's their standard. We're not quite that bad, but you have to know what the court cares about, so you know how to craft your argument and what to bring to the court and when you're wasting your time.
That sounds huge. Like huge.
I think it's huge.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the rules of procedure or the laws or how to put an exhibit in. It's really just the highest level view of understanding the system.
Great advice. What about the paperwork involved?
Sure. So a lot of paperwork, if you have an uncontested divorce, meaning you don't really disagree on anything, you just got to process your paperwork, you can do that pretty easily yourself. All of the paperwork is usually available online in whatever county you're in. There's an online filing system. At Modern Law, we have a free book called Decode Your Divorce, which was written for people who are representing themselves, it takes you through everything you need to know, like how to set up an ECR online account, how to do service. It's more like a guide where you can go to the chapter that is most effective to you or most relevant to you, and then you can figure out what you need to do for that chapter. So there's a lot of free resources available.
Awesome. I know that's music to some ears out there. It's just recently, I mean, like I said, I see posts on a daily basis for stuff like this. So that is so helpful and amazing. I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about, do you have any other co-parenting tips, hacks,
Yes.
anything that you'd like to share?
I wrote down some do's and don'ts as I was having
awesome.
I was talking to an attorney earlier today that works for me, and we were talking about some of her cases, and and I was just jotting down like, here's what it is. So here's a couple notes from what I jotted down today in just half an hour. Children manipulate their parents. It's their job. You need to assume that your children are trying to play the two of you against each other.
I did as a kid.
And your children need you to shut it down. They need you to. They need you to say, I'm going to check with your dad on that because I'm not sure that sounds exactly right. And he and I are on the same page with this. Like, even if it's not true, tell your children, your dad and I talk about these things and I'm not sure he'll agree. Like, do you know how powerful that is for your kids? That creates safety.
Yeah. And
do not be silly enough to look at a situation and say, I can take advantage of this. So the example she gave me this morning was an 11-year-old got caught shoplifting. Dad took away social media on the phone. Mom picked up the kid, was mad. Mom picked up the kid and now made all these false allegations. Like, we see through it. The judge sees through it. We're going to get it wrapped up. But you know who the real victim is here? The kiddo who now hasn't seen his dad, who hasn't been punished for shoplifting. Like, it's not a big deal, but like, understand your children manipulate you. That's number one. And along with that, don't get played. Allow your children to talk freely about what's happening at the other parent's house, but do not interrogate them about what's happening at the other parent's house.
Ooh, good advice.
So what I mean is, I don't care how much you hate your ex. Like, check it. Go to therapy, get some EMDR, figure out how to not be triggered so that your children don't feel like they can't mention their other parent's name, because that is not fair to them. So that is a big deal. Like, allow your children to talk about their home, their rooms, their new stepfather, their new stepmother. Figure it out. I know that's hard, but figure it out. And then do not interrogate them. Do not sit them down and be like, and then he touched you where? So-and-so yelled at you? Do you do your homework at your dad's? Don't do it. Just don't. It's not going to help. That's one of those things the court doesn't care about. So you creating evidence is literally only hurting your co-parenting relationship and hurting your kid.
Yeah, 100%. And probably hurting your relationship with your child too, because I feel like they're going to sense that.
Oh, for sure.
And then may clam up and not share things with you. And that could potentially translate to other things that they should be sharing with you as young adults, teenagers, and that kind of thing.
Right. They need to be able to say whatever they need to say to you and not have your face react, be it, and just think about it that way. Think about it from like, they need to be able to tell you if their friends are doing drugs at school or so-and-so did what in the bathroom or whatever. They need to be able to say it. And if they can't say it, they have to be careful. Then they're going to start filtering everything, just like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I feel like it gets real dangerous. It's when you start losing that communication with you and your child. Awesome, Billie. Wow. Well, we just ripped through almost a half an hour, nice and quick. Do you have do you have anything else you'd love to add to?
Well, I just had one more thing that I'd written down, which is like, it's really hard to know what to talk to your kids about if you're going through divorce. And everybody's heard like, don't talk to your kids, but depending on their ages, they need to talk and they need to know what's going on. So the rule for you, the thing to know is share the details with your children that they need to know because it's relevant to them. Where are you living? Where will you go to school? When will you see your mom? When will you see your dad? They do not need to know. They might ask you, why did you break up? And you need to have a 2-sentence soundbite that is something like whatever, but protects them and protects them from your relationship drama when you're deciding how much to communicate with your kids. So that is it.
I totally love that. Being a child of divorced parents, my parents divorced when I was 2 years old. I think that that is so, so, so giant. And remembering back, like it was a long time ago, Billie, I'm 42. So it's 40 years ago. And just remembering back to that little girl and her fears. And, you know, I didn't have any siblings, so it was just kind of me and these two, right? I remember that feeling of not necessarily didn't feel safe because I knew my mom always had me, you know what I mean? But I remember feeling like, oh, well, is dad coming today? Oh, he didn't show up. Oh, you know what I mean? And just, I didn't have a clear understanding of what was supposed to happen. What was the agreement? What are we doing here? So I think that that is giant for that confidence factor, for that personal safety factor. Super, super good advice there. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Katie.
Yeah, thank you. So if our audience members want to get in touch, if they want to listen to your podcast, like I'm going to do later today, or get in touch with you, ask you any questions, that kind of thing, what's the best way for them to do that?
So the podcast is called the Modern Divorce Podcast, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find me anywhere. TikTok seems to be one of the most active platforms where people are asking questions. So you can look at Modern Law AZ there, or our website is mymodernlaw.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Billie. It was an absolute pleasure to see you again.
Great to see you. We'll have to get together in real life sometime soon.
I totally agree. Let's do it. And then I would love to get you on our From the Heart podcast because I think you'd be a great guest.
Awesome. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.